Hands up if anyone in this room recognizes the woman on the board. For those of you who don't, this is Marilyn Monroe, and she will be a key part of my speech later on. Hi, my name is Lillian, and I'm going to be speaking about beauty standards, how they affect us, and how to not let them affect us. So let me set you a scene. It is February 1947, and Christian Dior has just released a new collection dubbed The New Look. And after 6 years of rationing and boxing uniforms, it plunged women and the fashion world into opulence, and it rescued them from post-war misery. Around this time, major starlets like Marilyn Monroe were emerging. She played the comical bombshell in films and was slim, fair, blonde, and curvy. And overall, she portrayed a beauty ideal that was totally unattainable to the ordinary teenage girl or housewife viewing her on their black and white screens. And Alison Feller's testimony to this in Liz Heron's book, Girls Growing Up in the 50s, when she writes, aspiring to femininity feels like imagining you could climb Mount Everest. Only Audrey Hepburn gave cause for hope. And when Audrey Hepburn stepped into spotlight, some of this changed for girls. She was elegant in a simplistic way, slender and sophisticated. A Vogue magazine in 1953 first described her as, by Hollywood standards, and one must never, never minimize Hollywood standards, Audrey Hepburn is slim-hipped, flat-chested, and altogether un-Marilyn Monroe-ish. And yet Audrey managed to charm millions of people, and what's more, showed them that they didn't have to look like Marilyn necessarily in order to feel beautiful or handsome. This blonde and brunette paradox has been implemented into many character tropes, so if you're not all that familiar with Marilyn and Audrey, I'll give you more of a current example. I'm sure most of you have seen or heard of the TV show Gossip Girl. The main character, Serena van der Woodsen, is said to be heavily influenced on Marilyn Monroe. She's blonde, tall, messy, and her life mostly centers around partying and love interests, whereas her best friend, Blair Waldorf, is said to be heavily influenced on Audrey. She's short, petite, organized, and brunette, and her life mostly revolves around academic success, and later on in life, business success. But going back to the harmful aspect of these standards, it's important to mention that they not only apply to women. Many boys in TV shows such as Riverdale or Euphoria are represented like big, muscly, tall, and with abs, when in reality, many teenage boys don't look that way at all. And boys, just like us girls, will look at this and subconsciously accept this is what they're supposed to look like, and then criticize themselves, thinking they don't look like what they're supposed to. Hands up if you're from the age ranges 16 to 18 in this room. Now keep your hands up if you think that these two characters represent you. These characters are played by Jacob Elordi and Alexa Demie, and they're meant to represent two 16 to 17-year-olds. Is this what we're supposed to look like? This is what I'm talking about. Even though when we're watching the TV show, video, posted on Instagram, we might not think it's harming our mental health or our self-esteem, because at the end of the day, it's just someone that looks a bit better than us, someone that looks a bit older than us. But in reality, it's a combination of airbrushed influencers, bodybuilders taking steroids and muscle enhancers, and people who've gotten plastic surgery and refuse to admit they've gotten work done. All of this severely damages the way that we look at ourselves. Now we know what beauty standards are and how to spot them. But where do they come from? There are a lot of different sources and a lot of different theories, but my belief is that it comes from the male gaze, which is the portrayal of women in media solely based on their looks and ability to please a man. It can be applied to men, but most of it is centered around women. And I know this is kind of hard to picture, so I'll give you more of an example. The woman on the left is Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street. She plays Naomi LaPaglia, the wife of a multi-billionaire and fraud Jordan Belfort. And throughout the whole film, her main role is to be his eye candy, his trophy wife. When she tries to voice her opinions, Jordan is often irritated at her and patronizing. And all in all, she doesn't really have much of a purpose in the film beyond looking beautiful. Now let's have a look at Margot Robbie in Barbie. Her role in the film is major, her character has a purpose, and although her beauty in the film is quite stereotypical due to the premise and her being a typical Barbie and all, not all characters look like that. And all in all, the Barbie movie is a general example of the female gaze, which is the polar opposite of the male gaze. It's a way of looking at characters in media as more than what they look like. It fleshes them out as people who have choice and feelings, and it allows us to create empathy with them. But in order to achieve our best selves, which is what we should all ultimately strive for, we must be self-confident. And how are we supposed to be self-confident in a world where everywhere we look, there's something fake reminding us that this is what we're supposed to look like? Now, at least we know the repercussions it has, and avoiding it is out of the question unless you'd like to live under a rock. Instead, we must learn to live with it, to look at them critically, because after all, they're not real. What's considered beautiful to us now probably isn't regarded the same way in different countries. Many girls in Western societies wear contour, bronzer, and fake tan in order to hide their paleness. But in Korea, Japan, China, and other East Asian countries, it's considered vulgar to be tan and elegant to be pale. In Mauritania, Le Bleu is popular, which is basically force-feeding girls gallons of milk, peanut oil, animal fat, and couscous in order to make them look fuller. This is because of the old Berber belief that fat is the epitome of attractiveness. This is happening in this day and era now in Africa, although to the Western society it can seem universes away, with their predominant and toxic diet culture still poisoning minds. These beauty standards change over time too. Nowadays, it's common for women in Iran to seek nose jobs and liposuctions, but only 100 years ago, the beauty standards were completely different. Obesity was a prominent feature, meaning however fuller you were, the more attractive you were to a man, linking us back to the male gaze. Mustaches and unibrows were also considered a beauty standard, something nowadays women would go out of their way to get rid of, with laser therapy, wax, plucking. The woman on my left is Princess Qajar, considered the ultimate beauty symbol of Persia during the 20th century. So much so that a total of 13 men killed themselves because she rejected them. Would we as a society still hold to that same standard today? And this is why it's important to embrace your features, and it all starts with the media. Kat Hernandez is a plus-size Latina character who, although is not skinny, feels beautiful, doesn't feel a need to change her weight, and what's more, her weight in the TV show isn't even mentioned. Use Kat as a reminder that you don't have to conform to the beauty standards. You can look different and still feel beautiful or handsome. And in an ever-changing world, there have been people who have achieved this sense of security. So don't think, why not me? Because if it's possible for them, why not you? And you might think that these are only characters, but there are many real-life examples of people who have managed to achieve this level of confidence. For example, I used to be really shy and a bit of a pushover. I didn't know what I was capable of, and I limited myself to following other people and get stepped on. However, I realized that I must step up and take risks, speak to people I never would have spoken to, do things I never would have done. Once I started feeling more confident, wearing my hair natural, smiling more, I could feel the amount of power I was gaining. I was confident for the first time in my life, and it showed in my words, action, and work. And this is a message that I would like to transmit. Don't be fooled by the beauty standards. Learn to love yourself, and only like that will you be fully confident in yourself and able to do anything that you'd like to do. Thank you.